drawn and redrawn, the making of India's internal boundaries.
Hi, and welcome back to India's State Stories, a project that explores the evolution of India's political and administrative boundaries. This project is supported by the Center for Legislative Education and Research, Flame University, Pune.
In the last few episodes, we looked at the integration of princely states that were merged into their respective provinces and formed the Part A states. Now, we turn towards Part B states, that is, the states grouped together to form a viable union and were governed by a Raj Pramukh, a new constitutional position held by a former ruler of a state and appointed by the President of India. Along with these unions, some major states like Hyderabad, Jammu and Kashmir and Mysore state were also categorized into Part B states and governed in the similar manner by the Raj Pramukh. Let's dive into the fascinating history of formations of these unions and explore their individual stories in the following 9 episodes. Listen to the first 3 episodes of Season 2 to understand a deeper context. These episodes give an overview of the entire process of integration, along with an introduction to the legal instruments and some key personalities which made it possible. More details are in the show notes below, and let's dive in.
Imagine, for a moment, an entire region, vast in scale, kind of a patchwork of dozens of independent kingdoms, right? Each with its own ruler, its own laws, ancient customs, all inside the borders of a brand new nation. Now, picture the monumental, almost impossible task of convincing all these different players to voluntarily give up their sovereignty and weave themselves into one single unit.
Yeah.
Today, our deep dive takes us to post-independence India, specifically to the really dramatic and intricate process of integrating the Rajputana States into what we now know as Rajasthan.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, and often gets overlooked, isn't just the size of it all, but the incredible complexity. I mean, we're talking 18 independent states, 1 chiefship, and 1 estate.
Right.
Each one was practically its own world, varying hugely in size, population, and deeply rooted social and cultural identities. This wasn't just, drawing lines on a map. It was really a masterclass in diplomacy, sharp negotiation, and the patient, often very precarious art of building a nation from the ground up. We're going to explore the historical context, the clever step-by-step plan they used, the key figures who made it happen, and some really surprising challenges they bumped up against.
Absolutely. And this isn't just dry history. It's kind of a shortcut to understanding a crucial chapter in modern statecraft, packed with aha moments about how these seemingly impossible challenges were actually navigated and overcome. You'll hear about everything from, deep-seated royal reluctance and dramatic, even tense standoffs to the really painstaking work of crafting brand new ways to govern. So as we dig into this incredible story, what lessons can we maybe glean about what actually holds a nation together, especially one as diverse as India?
That's the core question, isn't it?
So let's start by painting a picture of the historical landscape. Before India finally got its independence in 1947, Rajputana, these princely states that would eventually become Rajasthan, was, a really fascinating and frankly fragmented region.
Very fragmented.
It wasn't a single thing at all. Instead, like you said, it was made up of those 18 independent states, plus the chiefship and the estate. We're talking powerful, historically significant places. Jodhpur, Jaipur, Bikaner, Udaipur, Alwar, Viratpur, each with its own identity, its own royal line, its own history.
And this fragmentation, rooted in tradition, was also a source of huge vulnerability.
Right.
By the late 18th century, these proud Rajput states were under severe pressure. They were being repeatedly ravaged by outsiders like the Marathas, the Pindaris, the Pathans.
Right.
It left them feeling pretty helpless, constantly watching their backs. It was the British who eventually stepped in after they beat the Marathas, taking these states under their protection.
Protection in quotes, maybe.
Exactly. It offered some stability, sure, freed them from the Maratha threat, but it came at a big cost. The British put strict limits on their internal autonomy and their external relations. So essentially the British had, for their own administrative ease, unified the area under a loose Rajputana agency, but the real modern integration into a proper self-governing state. That complex job was left entirely to India's nationalist leadership after 47.
Okay, so independence is coming. You've got this complex mess of princely states needing to be woven into the fabric of a new India. Who were the people actually tasked with this immense challenge? This wasn't just politics. It was like high-stakes diplomatic chess, wasn't it?
Right.
What kind of leadership did it demand?
That's a great question because the success really of this whole thing can largely be pinned on two major figures. Sardar Patel, India's first deputy PM and home minister, and VP Menon, a brilliant civil servant who became Patel's right-hand man. They weren't just politicians, they were incredibly skilled negotiators and strategic thinkers. Their approach was really multi-layered, balancing firmness with a sharp understanding of, well, human nature and political realities.
And what did that approach actually look like on the ground? Because, you can imagine these priests weren't exactly rushing to give up centuries of power, were they?
Not at all. Their initial reluctance was profound. It was driven mainly by these deep concerns about protecting their absolute sovereignty and, maybe just as importantly, their financial positions, their treasuries, their lifestyles.
Yeah.
So Patel and Menon got into these extensive diplomatic talks, really a masterclass in persuasion. They didn't just lay down the law, they offered real incentives, clear benefits like guaranteed privy purses, essentially tax-free annual payments.
The privy purses. Always key.
Always key. And assurances of full ownership over their private properties, separate from state assets. But, it wasn't all just carrots. There was also a subtle but firm message about the potential for, well, public unrest if rulers resisted the direction the new nation was heading.
Right. The will of the people angle.
Exactly. It was this remarkable mix of incentives and, let's say, veiled warnings, showing a really pragmatic grasp of the bigger political forces at play.
That's a really powerful point, that balance between incentives and the sort of looming background threat of public feeling. So how did they actually manage this logistically? Because it wasn't just signing one big document, was it? Tell us about the cleverness behind this phased approach, because that, for me, is where the real aha moment is.
You've nailed it. The integration wasn't one single dramatic event. It couldn't be. It was a carefully staged, multi-step process. And it was strategically brilliant, actually.
Why is that?
Because rushing, it could have easily provoked widespread resistance. It might have jeopardized the whole nation-building project, like we saw happen in some other areas. Instead, by allowing smaller unions to form first, it kind of created a testing ground, built up administrative experience, and maybe most importantly, it let the princes gradually get used to the idea of a reduced sovereign role.
Made it less scary.
Exactly. Made the bigger mergers seem less threatening down the line. This phased approach allowed for adaptation, negotiation, and slowly building trust in these larger administrative units.
Okay, so let's walk through those steps. The first deliberate move, March 1948, was the Matsi Union, a smaller kind of foundational group bringing together 4 states: Alwar, Bharatpur, Jodhpur, and Karali.
Right, the first building block.
Then, just a month later, April 48, came the first Rajasthan Union. This was bigger. 9 states: Banswara, Bundi, Dungarpur, Jalawar, Kishingar, Kota, Pratapgarh, Shahpura, and Tonk.
And that second union got a significant boost in prestige and weight when Udaipur state, historically one of the most important Rajput states, decided to join it too. Oh.
That was a really big step, not just territorially, but symbolically. Huge for consolidating the region.
Then following that, March 1949, we get Greater Rajasthan. This was the really big one, wasn't it? The remaining major Rajput states, Jaipur, Jodhpur, Bikaner, Jaisalmer, they were finally brought into that expanding First Rajasthan Union.
A massive step.
And finally, to sort of complete the picture, the Matsi Union, the one we started with, was merged into the larger Greater Rajasthan unit in May 1949, really weaving all those separate threads together.
And this step-by-step method, moving from these smaller, more manageable unions to progressively larger ones, was just crucial. It showed they understood that forcing immediate integration might not have worked, and it allowed them to carefully consider local issues and specific challenges at each point. That phased approach, like you said, also let them navigate some really difficult situations.
Yeah.
Let's get into one of the most interesting stories here, the Jodhpur dilemma. Maharaja Halwant Singh of Jodhpur wasn't just hesitant. He actively considered independence and, in a really bold move, even thought about joining Pakistan to try and get better terms for himself.
That's right. It sounds incredible now, but Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Pakistan's founder, reportedly made him a significant offer to join Pakistan.
What kind of offer?
Things like using Karachi as a free port, permission to import arms freely, control over the Jodhpur-Hyderabad railway link in Sindh, and even a promise of grain supplies for Jodhpur, which was facing famine threats.
Wow. That's quite tempting.
Very tempting, both financially and strategically, especially given Jodhpur's border location.
The Patel and Menon reacted fast.
Immediately. Menon countered Jinnah's offer, promising similar concessions from India, including a railway line from Jodhpur to a port in Kutch, giving Jodhpur its own sea access. And Lord Mountbatten himself stepped in, warning the Maharaja very seriously about the risk of sparking communal violence if Jodhpur, a Hindu-majority state, joined Pakistan.
And crucially, wasn't there also local opposition within Jodhpur itself?
Absolutely. Significant opposition, especially from the Jagirdars, these powerful feudal landowners who had a lot of influence and other nobles. They made it very clear they didn't want to join Pakistan.
So the pressure was internal as well as external.
Indeed. Menon spelled it out. Joining Pakistan went against the whole principle of partition, which was based on religious majorities, and it could plunge the area into terrible communal trouble. Despite all the intense back and forth, the Maharaja did eventually sign the Instrument of Accession to India.
But not without some drama.
Oh, definitely not. The most memorable part is probably the pen pistol incident. Right after signing, Hanwant Singh apparently pulled out this pen that was actually a tiny pistol and, in a moment of anger or frustration, threatened Menon with it.
You're kidding.
No, Mountbatten had to quickly step in and defuse things. It was a genuinely tense, high-stakes moment. But what's fascinating is that apparently later on, that dramatic standoff became a sort of standing joke between the three of them.
Incredible. That just shows how personal and charged these negotiations were.
It really does. A testament to the intense emotions involved.
It's almost unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
That after all the diplomacy, it boiled down to a moment like that. It really hammers home just how personal these decisions were for the rulers, even as they were shaping history. So, okay, beyond these dramatic moments, what were the actual nuts and bolts of winning the princes over? The privy purse was obviously key, and you mentioned private property too.
Absolutely. These weren't just minor details. They were complex, delicate negotiations, often settled through intense face-to-face talks, not some formal arbitration. Inventories of assets had to be submitted, principles for dividing them worked out. VP Menon himself often helped finalize these settlements across different unions.
So he was really hands-on.
Very much so. Initially, they used something called the Eastern States Formula as a general guide for setting the privy purses. But for some of the bigger or more strategically important states like Jaipur, Jodhpur, Udaipur, they agreed on higher ad hoc amounts.
Why was that?
Well, sometimes it was because of their importance, or maybe they'd been more cooperative, or sometimes it was because amounts had already been sort of fixed by their own local popular governments before integration. For instance, the Maharana of Udaipur got Rs 10 lakh plus allowances, Jaipur got Rs 18 lakh, Jodhpur Rs 17.5 lakh, Bikaner Rs 17 lakh.
Significant sums.
Very significant, tax-free sums, and they were absolutely crucial. A direct trade-off, really. Give up your ruling powers, allow democracy, and you get this financial security and recognition.
Let's zoom back in on the Matza Union for a second, because you mentioned it was the first block, and it seems like it highlights some of the specific tricky challenges within the bigger process. Recap for us: Alwar, Bharatpur, Dholpur, Kareli formed March 48, named by K.M. Munshi, drawing on ancient history.
Right, and the Maharaja of Dholpur became the Raj Pramukh, the head, partly due to seniority, but also because inquiries were pending against the rulers of Alwar and Bharatpur at the time.
Okay, but then a problem cropped up.
A big one. It quickly became clear the Matza Union just wasn't going to be financially viable on its own. It couldn't support itself. So it would have to join either the bigger Rajasthan entity or the neighboring United Provinces, what's now Uttar Pradesh.
Ah, so another decision needed.
Exactly. And this led to a real split in opinion, especially in Bharatpur and Dholpur. People there felt strong linguistic and cultural ties to UP. So should they go that way or stick with the Rajasthan project?
How did they resolve that?
Well, they set up a committee specifically to gauge public opinion. This committee went out, did its work, and ultimately reported that a majority favored integrating with Rajasthan. So that's what happened. The merger went ahead on May 15th, 1949.
But they left the door open a crack.
Interestingly, yes, they showed some real foresight. A provision was included that allowed for public opinion in Bharatpur and Dholpur to be reassessed later regarding a possible merger with the United Provinces. It showed a smart balance meeting the immediate need for integration while respecting local feelings and keeping future options open.
So once these deals were struck, these unions formed, what did the actual legal and administrative setup look like? These merger agreements, the covenants, they laid down some pretty fundamental things, right? Like a common executive, legislature, judiciary.
Absolutely.
The core idea was unification. The rulers formally agreed to unite their territories, and all their historical ruling rights and authority were vested in the new union. That was the fundamental transfer of power.
And in return, as we discussed, came those guarantees. The annual fixed privy purses, tax-free for giving up ruling powers. Also, the guarantee of full ownership, use, and enjoyment of their private properties, crucially distinct from state properties as they existed on the day of the agreement.
Anything else?
Yes. Importantly, the covenants also guaranteed the rulers' personal privileges, their honor, and their traditional dignities. It was about ensuring a respectful transition, not just kicking them out, acknowledging their historical status.
And what about the leadership for this big new state? Who was actually in charge on day one?
The head of the new union was called the Rajpramukh. Think of it like a constitutional governor for the new state. For Greater Rajasthan, this position was made hereditary, given to the Maharaja of Jaipur, which cemented his family's prominence.
But wasn't there another title?
Ah, yes, a very clever move. To honor history and keep another major royal house happy, the Maharana of Mewar, from Udaipur, was given the title Maharaj Pramukh. This was a higher title, signifying his historical seniority, but it was largely honorary, lifetime position without direct administrative power.
Smart. A way to manage egos and history.
Precisely. It was vital for keeping social and political harmony. And to make sure things ran smoothly and in line with the new Indian constitution, the Rajpramukh and his council of ministers operated under the general supervision and direction of the central government of India until a proper local constitution could be framed and adopted. A careful mix of local leadership and central guidance.
Now, beyond the high politics and the royal deals, there were also these incredibly practical, almost mundane challenges, like literally cleaning up the map. You mentioned these scattered enclaves, little bits of other states or provinces stuck inside Rajasthan and bits of Rajasthan stuck elsewhere. That must have been an administrative nightmare.
Oh, it absolutely was. Imagine trying to run schools or police services or collect taxes with these weird pockets everywhere. So the solution required really meticulous ground-level work.
How did they fix it?
The main strategy was rationalizing the boundaries through mutual exchange of territories. Swapping land, basically. We see a clear example with the agreement made with the neighboring state of Madhya Pradesh on January 20, 1950. The government of India approved it, of course.
What did that involve?
It spelled out specific swaps. For instance, some villages from Tehsil Begum in District Chittor, which were geographically inside Madhya Pradesh, were formally transferred to Madhya Pradesh. And in return, villages from Tehsil Neemuch in District Mansar, which were inside Rajasthan, became formally part of Rajasthan.
So, detailed, painstaking work.
Exactly. It really highlights the level of administrative detail needed to make a unified state actually function effectively on the ground, well beyond just the big political agreements.
And so after all these stages, the careful planning, the intense negotiations, the dramatic standoffs, even tidying up the map, the Greater Rajasthan Union was formally inaugurated by Sardar Patel himself on March 30, 1949.
A truly colossal achievement, the birth of a unified state from all those disparate pieces. At its initial formation, this new union covered, about 120,888 square miles, with a population around 11.2 million.
Huge.
And then, after the final merger of the Matsya Union in May 49, the total area of the new Rajasthan state grew to roughly 128,424 square miles, and the population to about 13.1 million. It just underscores the sheer scale of the geographical and demographic transformation they achieved, bringing stability and a shared identity to millions.
What an incredible journey we've just traced. From that fragmented collection of princely states, each its own little world, to a unified, modern administrative entity. This deep dive into Rajputana's integration into Rajasthan really shows the unbelievable complexities of building a nation. It wasn't just about political willpower, was it? It was about intricate negotiations, necessary compromises, and yes, even those dramatic personal confrontations. We saw the meticulous planning and, frankly, the sheer determination of Sardar Patel and VP Menon, the resistance from powerful rulers like Kanwat Singh, and those very real practical challenges of unifying different systems and even untangling the administrative map.
Indeed. And it's important to remember this process wasn't just about territory. Fundamentally, it was about replacing these absolutist regimes with democratic governments. It was about ensuring that the rights and the welfare of the ordinary people were prioritized in this new unified India.
Right.
The care they took with things like privy purses and sorting out private property, even down to rationalizing those tiny enclaves. It speaks volumes about how comprehensive their approach had to be to build a stable, integrated future. It's really a powerful testament, I think, to the idea that unity doesn't have to mean erasing diversity. It can mean finding common ground where different elements can coexist, contribute, and thrive within a larger national framework.
Absolutely. So, reflecting on all this, what lessons can modern nations, maybe facing their own internal divisions or integration challenges, draw from this remarkable historical feat, this bringing together of so many diverse, autonomous entities? What stands out to you when you think about the delicate art of statecraft involved here and the fundamental compromises needed to build something truly lasting?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It really is. It's a thought that resonates far beyond Rajasthan's borders, reminding us, I think, that even today in our supposedly interconnected world, that fundamental push and pull between local identity and national unity is a constant challenge, one that's always worth exploring and trying to understand better.